Hello, everyone. Just recording this quick video to share with you an answer to a question that's been asked by several people I've worked with one-on-one and has been coming up a lot on my channel recently. I actually have a full-length video for you. I just haven't finished editing it because you guys have been keeping me so busy. So I wanted to hop on and answer this question for you. And that question is it a good idea to invest in a neuroplasticity program? Okay, so a neuroplasticity program is a program that supposedly teaches you to change your brain. That's what neuroplasticity is. And I know we've talked about this in other videos, but just to recap, neuroplasticity is just that process through which your brain changes its responses. And this is something that it's actually doing all the time. But these programs are designed for people with chronic conditions, and they claim to teach you how to change your brain in the right ways. And this makes a lot of sense on the surface with something like neural circuit dizziness. And neural circuit dizziness, again, is something we talk about a lot here, but it refers to the idea that dizziness in many cases is not being caused by a physical problem or damage. It's being caused by the fact that the brain has a bad pattern in it. In other words, that the brain is making a mistake and it's creating this sensation of dizziness not in response to correct information from the outside, but because it is using bad information, or it's using bad predictions to create your daily experience. And types of neural circuit dizziness, this refers to triple PD, chronic subjective dizziness, and MDDS. Definitively, my opinion is this also includes vestibular migraine and Meniere's disease. This is not a view that's shared by conventional medical providers, so you may argue with me on the last two, but at least the first three are considered to be primarily neural circuit driven. So again, if you have a neural circuit problem, it makes complete sense to then want to create neuroplasticity and change the way your brain is working, and therefore extinguish or get rid of that bad neural circuit that's creating the dizziness, right? Okay, so I have a few problems with the marketing of these kinds of programs. So I want to be very careful and say that most of these programs probably have something of value to offer, and a lot of them have great stuff in them. So the problem sometimes is just the marketing and not the program itself. So I want to be very clear about that. But ultimately, these programs cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. So you should be very aware of what's just kind of marketing and what the actual value of the program is. And the marketing of these programs, or the programs themselves, will often frame neuroplasticity in a predatory way. And by that, what I mean is they'll imply through the marketing that they hold some secret to neuroplasticity. They'll say something like, harness the power of neuroplasticity to fix your problem, or whatever it is. And that's just BS, okay? It's BS because neuroplasticity is something you already have in you, and your brain is already doing every day. Your brain is constantly adjusting its responses based on the inputs it's getting from things around you. It's already neuroplastic. Neuroplasticity is inherent to every single human brain. If you're watching this video, your brain is doing neuroplasticity every day, all the time anyway, okay? So the idea that someone has to teach your brain how to do it is just nonsense. So that's one thing that I don't like about these marketing tactics. But the other part of it is a little more subtle. And this is a problem inherent in structured programs. So again, there are programs out there with a lot of value, and I'll explain kind of what those components might be. But sometimes when you put something into a structured written program, you're encouraging people like us, like me, like you, who have this tendency toward dizziness or migraines or chronic pain or what have you. We tend to be these very perfectionistic, conscientious people. And when we're faced with a very structured program, we want to do it right. We want to be A+ students. And I talked about this in my recent video on why vestibular rehabilitation exercises can make things worse. And I'll put that link below so you can look at it if you haven't already. But the idea is, if you're doing this very structured program in a very structured way, especially if you paid hundreds or thousands of dollars on it, you're gonna really want to use it the way it's written, right? When you do that, it kind of misses the point in two ways. And the first way it misses the point is that it actually can cause you to think about your symptoms even more. And obviously, we do need to have the symptoms and experience them in order to extinguish the fear of them. And we do have to engage in some kind of different routine from what we're doing right now if we're going to get better, right? So those are inherent to healing. But there's a balance, there's a subtle balance between doing those things and becoming kind of obsessive about them and perfectionistic about them, and just doing them in a really structured way. And again, when you've spent a lot of money on something and you also tend to have these traits, I think it's easy to fall into the trap of going down that second path and going overboard with how you're approaching it and becoming obsessed about whether your symptoms are going away or not. And I've heard feedback on this from a few friends and clients of mine who've had chronic fatigue syndrome and did these programs, and who did not get better from them because they weren't addressing the underlying issues. They were just focusing on the symptoms all the time. And that's the second part that these programs can miss. Neuroplasticity is great. Getting rid of a neural circuit is a great idea. I mean, if something is making you dizzy and you want it to stop making you dizzy, that's an awesome idea. That's a great goal to have. But why did you develop this neural circuit in the first place? Why? That's the real question. So focusing on the symptoms takes away from the focus on the real meat of the issue, which is that there is some fuel line that is feeding your dizziness. And I know I've mentioned on my channel frequently that fuel line is stress, but I want to clarify that by stress, I don't necessarily mean that, you got stuck in traffic or that you're going through an exam period. Most people that I've worked with have deep underlying internal stress, emotional distress from past experiences that they just haven't let go of. And that can range. It doesn't necessarily mean you've had trauma. It can mean that you were just holding feelings inside about something for a while and you haven't gotten them out yet. And when you're just engaging in neuroplasticity training and it's very, focused on that, let's breathe, let's, focus on the positives, let's keep track of the symptoms or not keep track of the symptoms, let's start journaling, let's do this. But it can kind of pull focus away sometimes from the really deep underlying stuff that started this in the first place. And I'm not saying that all programs do this. I'm saying that that's a danger that is easy to fall into because, again, these programs also want to give you quick results. I love when I teach my clients parasympathetic breathing and they're like, oh my gosh, my dizziness is so much better. And now that I do the exercises, I'm not afraid of them anymore. And oh my gosh, my dizziness has gone away. I love that. And I want to achieve that for everyone. But if we don't know what caused it, if we don't know what led the brain down that path in the first place, then the dizziness may not recur, but something else might happen. Your brain may find another neural circuit to engage in. It's not stuck with dizziness. There are other neural circuits that can be destructive or problematic, like chronic pain, like chronic fatigue syndrome. And I want to make sure that you understand that when someone says neuroplasticity, that doesn't mean that they're going to be focusing on these emotional things. And guess what? You can do that for free or at very low cost. You don't need an expensive program to walk you through that. So, of course, you are already aware I have my free program that, again, I will link to below. You can use that one. It'll teach you both parts. It'll teach you kind of those surface level neuroplasticity stuff, how to stop the dizziness, and it'll teach you a little bit on how to address kind of those underlying issues that may be feeding the dizziness. But there are other resources that can really help you dig into this stuff without having to spend a whole bunch of money. And there are some books and workbooks that I'm going to link to below, some of which I've talked about before and some of which I haven't. So check those out. Those, again, low cost, low investment, and that again is going to get to the meat of what's really driving all this stuff that you're going through right now, rather than just addressing kind of those more surface level symptoms. And again, I I want to be very fair. I'm sure some programs go into this, but I'm sure they don't go into it for $20 like a book does, like one of these workbooks does. Okay. So I really hope that this was helpful for you guys. And if you found neuroplasticity programs helpful, that's wonderful. I want you to get better. That's awesome. But if you're considering spending a whole bunch of money on a neuroplasticity program right now, then consider your other options. Again, a lot of resources out there are low cost or free. And if you have the money to spend on one of these programs, I personally feel, and there are those out there who may disagree with me, that you're better off spending the money on working one on one with a counselor or a psychotherapist or some other kind of coach or therapist who can help you get to the root of these issues. And I will link to some fabulous practices below that do this one on one all the time. And again, I know these things are expensive, but so are those programs. So, in my opinion, humble and biased opinion, if you're going to spend a lot of money on something, you're better off spending the money trying to dig down into what's causing the root of the issue, rather than spending the money on a program that is going to teach you meditation, super valuable, or breathing, also super valuable, or positive thinking, super valuable. These are all amazing components and wonderful, wonderful things that you should know how to do. But in my opinion, the cost benefit is really better when you're working with a therapist or a counselor or a coach. So that's just my 2 cents. If you disagree with me or agree with me, I'm looking forward to hearing your comments below. I know my channel is starting to definitely spread some more contr controversial information now, because I have evolved my own practice as I've worked with people over the last few years. So anyway, looking forward to hearing from you. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys soon.